So I want to talk a little bit about externalizing our power as empaths and also putting our trust too much in other people and in their knowledge and what they think, and a little bit about right thinking. I know as empaths, because a lot of us, especially if we were sort of born very, very sensitive, some of us develop those gifts for various reasons. But when you are basically, you grow up in an environment where you feel like you have to make yourself small and shrink because all the energy around you is so intense and you feel it all so strongly, you can develop neural pathways, like basically train your brain to believe that the world is against you and that you have to make yourself small or sort of extract yourself from situations in order to even be able to push your own emotions out and understand how you feel and understand what's going on within you. I know this is something I've struggled with most of my life. And it's very connected to me to also growing up in a very religious environment and a religious state, a religious home, and a religious environment where the emphasis was very much put on right thinking and who has the truth and following them, and then also watching everything that they do and making, if anything that they do or say is off, then all of a sudden everything that they said and believed is no longer valid. And I know it maybe sounds like it's unrelated to externalizing our power, but I actually think it's quite related, at least in my life. And I know some of you have been posting on the forum, on the Facebook group, about having, coming into your own, understanding what you believe and what you think, and sort of having your belief shift and having those around you react in fear. And I think this is all part of the old paradigm, which is, again, it wasn't just religious people who sort of kept the model of right thinking, but that was very Newtonian, and it was very much a part of our Western thinking and Enlightenment period for a long time. It was all about philosophy and how you think and who has the right philosophy, who has the truth. So whether you were raised in an environment, in a religious environment or not, it's very much just a part of our culture. And then when you add being empathic on top of that, on top of a society that pretty much believes in right thinking over emotions, over feelings, over intuition, all of those things, you have sort of a recipe for, I think, a lot of pain as an empath and a lot of confusion. And I know these two topics sound like they're unrelated, but for me it's very connected. One of the things that I think is really dangerous to do with me or with anybody that you're listening to on YouTube or anyone that you follow or any teacher or anyone is to know that they are not perfect, that they don't have access to any answers or anything that you don't have, and everything that they say and feel is interpreted through their own filters, their own life experiences, their own traumas, their own beliefs, and their own doubts, all of that. So nobody's going to have the perfect solution or the perfect set of answers for you, and I don't believe that anyone has right thinking for everybody, which is why that whole system is sort of breaking down and it just doesn't work anymore. There's been a lot of talk about spiritual abuse, and I have a lot of family and friends that have been through extreme religious abuse or come from really charismatic backgrounds, and they're coming out of it, and they have a lot of people around them reacting in fear about them really going within and finding their own truth and their own answers. And because we're so sensitive to that, we can feel the people around us so strongly in what they feel, it can cause us to even doubt ourselves more because we're feeling other people's doubts around us. But as we know, all things are connected, and you can't attract anything into your life that you don't somehow have within you as well. So I think it's a reflection, at least I know for me, it's whenever I attract people that are reacting in fear to my experiences and what I'm doing with my life, it's always a reflection of me doubting myself in some way and me sort of really dissolving that old model of right thinking and who has the right answers. And I just want to say right now, me as a person, even though, I am the admin of this group and I write on empathic abilities and I write on getting in touch with yourself and I do these videos, I certainly am not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. I'm learning from my own experience, and just because something works for me does not mean it's going to work for you. It doesn't mean it's going to work for anyone. There's things that'll only work for me because I'm completely unique, and I've had my own unique set of life experiences. And I think that looking out there, looking externally from ourselves to find answers and to put all of our stock in that. Oh, this one person, it's working for them, so I'm going to put all my stock in that. And then when that falls down, I'm going to, usually what we do as a human species, what we've done historically is we crucify. We worship, we put people on pedestals and then we crucify them. And then we put people on pedestals and we crucify them. And we're really doing that to ourselves because A, we're externalizing our power. And then we get disillusioned by truth, by everyone out there and philosophies and what people are saying, because people disappoint us and their actions disappoint us, their words disappoint us, or we try out what they try out and it just doesn't work for us. Anyone can be dangerous. Any message, my message, what I'm doing can be dangerous for certain people. If they could come from a background where what I'm teaching is probably the exact opposite of what they actually need. I don't know that. The only thing that I can ever know is what's right for me. And then I can share my experiences because I know there are people who resonate and have similar experiences with me, and they might be able to be like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. I feel that too. That's really the only purpose of this group. It's really the only purpose of what I'm doing right now. It's not to say that I have answers that other people don't have. And it's funny because I recently watched a video by, I'm not going to name any names here, but I didn't even watch the whole thing. But I was subscribed to this person's channel that I actually did a reading with a long time ago. She did a reading for me and I interviewed her as well for my website. And this was a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And I really like this person and I have respect for them. But lately their whole focus has been on going after other people on YouTube that are really popular on YouTube and like dismantling everything they say and kind of attacking their character. And this person actually just recently did a video on someone who's a really good friend of mine. I actually have several really good friends who are pretty popular on YouTube. And this one person that they did an attack on is really popular on YouTube. And they were basically saying how this person's, specifically their suggestions that they give on doing shadow work and things like that, which a lot of people are talking about because it's beneficial for a lot of people, just how dangerous it was and how dangerous this person is and how dangerous their teachings are. And to be honest, because I know this person personally that they're talking about, I know that part of what these people were saying was just not true at all. It was speculation. But aside from that, they had legitimate points. Like they were using examples of people who have tried this particular shadow work exercise and it didn't work for them and it brought up trauma and it just kept bringing up more trauma. And I think, you know what, that's legitimate. There are people that shadow work works brilliant for, and there are other people that shadow work might be one of the worst things they can do depending on where they're at, what kind of trauma they've had, where they're at and understanding it, how much support they have around them. You know what I mean? Like opening up a can of worms when you're going into deep repressed trauma, that's a serious thing and it's not something to take lightly. But all that I want to say, what was interesting to me about this particular video, and by the way, I totally understand that the video I'm doing right now is all over the place, and I feel like Mercury retrograde is in full swing because I'm having a hard time communicating lately, but I wanted to do this video anyway, so just forgive me being all over the place. Anyway, the girls doing this video attacking this other person on YouTube were saying that what this person was doing was old paradigm. And I almost just started laughing at that point. It was actually the point at which I quit watching the video. And the only reason I was really watching it in the first place is to see what problem they had with this person who's actually a friend of mine. And like I said, there's a lot of legitimate concerns that they raised. But what was so interesting to me was when they talked about old paradigm, like, okay, so putting someone under scrutiny and sort of discrediting them by putting them under a microscope and examining everything they do and saying they're not perfect here, here, and here, therefore what they say is invalid, that is about as old paradigm as it gets. And to me, old paradigm, and I've talked about it many times, is the aggressor, the victim, savior mentality. So in this scenario, these people who were doing these YouTube videos were pointing out an aggressor, which in this case was someone who's really popular on YouTube, who teaches like spiritual principles. And so they were saying this person's the aggressor. The victims are all these poor souls watching her videos that are just getting confused and lost and whatever they were claiming. And the saviors in this case were them, bringing the light, bringing truth, bringing this is what's really going on, don't listen to what this person is saying. So that's valid, because we've been playing that game for a really long time, and it's a fun game to play, and there's valid points in all of those roles, but all those roles are absolutely needed in order to play that game. So they wouldn't be able to be the saviors unless there was an aggressor, and there wouldn't be able to be the aggressor unless there were victims. So I think this goes all along with the whole externalizing your power, because there are really no victims. There is, in a certain paradigm, there are victims. If you're in that paradigm, there's a victim. But nobody is forcing anybody to go on YouTube and watch a video that someone else is saying. No one's forcing you to do that. No one's forcing anyone to go to a specific church or a specific philosophy. I mean, maybe it's different if you were raised as a child in something and you're breaking out of it as an adult, but you still always, at some point in your life, have a choice. You get to choose what you believe. You get to choose who you listen to. You get to choose how you are going to respond to things. And there is not one single person out there that's going to have all the answers for you. It's just ridiculous. And when people around you start acting in fear because you're listening to something or you are believing something that doesn't line up with what they think is true, that's about them. That has to do with their own insecurities, their own issues. They may have had legitimate things happen like, for example, a lot of us, what we talk about and teach are a lot of people call what a lot of people call New Age philosophy. I don't actually consider myself a New Age teacher at all, but a lot of the esoteric things that I believe are sort of in that category. So, and I know for a fact that within the New Age movement, there has been a lot of really ridiculous things that have happened, and probably philosophies and teachings that have been dangerous for people. But just like orange juice can be fresh squeezed orange juice can be the best thing for someone in the morning, and for a diabetic it could be one of the worst things that they could ever drink. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with orange juice. It just means you need to have discernment. The person who's drinking needs to have discernment about what they're doing. One man's medicine is another man's poison. So my roundabout way of making this video and bringing out my point is that there is never going to be anything external from you that is going to give you everything that you need. And if you were looking for someone else to put on a pedestal and to externalize your power to and think, oh well, they have all their shit together and I'm gonna follow absolutely everything that they say and do so that I can get my shit together, you're going to be highly disappointed. And people around you that are concerned and acting in fear for what you're doing, they're doing that same thing, and it's part of the old paradigm. So there's benefits to all that. There's benefits to having discernment. There's benefits to not listening to certain people. But just because maybe one thing somebody says isn't great doesn't mean everything they said isn't great. And it doesn't mean you can't make a cocktail of what people are saying and just find what works for you. And also, what do you think? What do you feel? What is coming from you? You know, the only purpose of us talking and communicating with each other is just so we can learn from each other and also have people that we resonate with so we know we're not alone. But it's never ever about someone else giving you the answers that you don't have. You already have the answers, and you're not alone, and you can take up space in what you believe and what you feel and what you think, and you will always find people that resonate with you. And if you want to stay in the old paradigm of being a victim or an aggressor or a savior, you can do that. There is value to that old paradigm. But you have to also understand, in order to be in that paradigm, all three roles are needed. So if you want to be a savior, you're going to have victims. You're going to have an aggressor. That's just how it works. But the game I'm interested in playing is the empowerment game, where we all take 100% responsibility for our own lives, for our own vibration, for what we believe and think and feel and do. And if someone else is teaching something or doing something that we don't agree with, we have to have enough trust in them and enough trust in other people with their own journeys, to trust them with their own soul's journey. It's not our responsibility to take care of, to live someone else's soul journey for them or to protect them from being deceived. That is not our responsibility. It's not. That is part of the old world paradigm. It is not our responsibility, because you can ultimately never do that. All you can ever do is line up with your truth. That's the only thing you have control over. And to know that everyone else, they have complete free agency to do whatever they want, to think whatever they want, to feel whatever they want, to believe whatever they want, to teach whatever they want. And I find it interesting that the same people who are often, making it their crusade to criticize people who are teaching certain things and to discredit them, they're the same ones that espouse freedom and free will and being able to think for ourselves and being empowered. So how, if you are saying this person has no right to say or think what they're feeling, and my job in life is to shut them down, how is that not any different than the Crusades, or from the Christians who killed the Gnostics, or from any other thing that's been going on in this world for thousands of years? On shutting other people down, like, don't speak, don't have a voice, don't say what you feel, because if it makes me uncomfortable, then it threatens my whole worldview, and then I'm threatened. So it's just something I wanted to bring up, and something I thought it would be interesting to talk about, because I feel like empaths